Since President Joe Biden reversed Donald Trump's border policies, nearly 800,000 illegal immigrants have been apprehended by Border Patrol agents. And that's just in the last 6 months. My first guest tonight represents Texas, and he's on the front lines of this crisis. I want you to welcome to the show Congressman Pat Fallon. Congressman, it's great having you here. I'm just talking about some stuff about Texas. You probably related to a little bit of that, right?
That was a great monologue. This is a great crowd full of great Americans.
Yes, it is.
And it's
always
exciting. Because, Governor, you can tell these folks, they love America.
Yeah, they do. They love America. I want to get to something. We're going to talk about all these because there's two really big Texas stories, the border and then these legislators fleeing the state. But there's something about you that is just stunning. You had never done a marathon, and you got this harebrained idea that you were going to become one of a handful of people to run 7 marathons in 7 days on 7 continents. And you not only did it, you lived to tell about it. What on earth possessed you to take on something like that? Most people couldn't even think about it, much less accomplish it.
My wife was helping a family whose son, 8-year-old son, had brain cancer. And it was a 5% survivability for a year. And I told her about this, that I wanted to do this 777. And she said, well, she was fond of me helping. She said, I don't want you to do it. I said, baby, why? She said, because you're going to die. And then I called up a buddy of mine.
That's better than her saying, I want you to do it
because you're going to die.
That would be bad.
And I called a friend of mine and I said, my wife doesn't want to do it. Susan doesn't want me to do it. And he said, don't do it, dude. And I said, why? Because you're going to die. So she did let me do it.
Yeah.
You know, and I was told afterward that I was the first person in the world that had ever done their first marathon on the continent of Antarctica.
I believe that's probably right. Yeah.
And I can tell you why. Because it's an extraordinarily bad idea to do your first marathon on the continent of Antarctica.
It's like, what were you thinking? You know, that makes me think you're about as smart as some of those Texas legislators. Which, what a great segue. What were those folks thinking?
You know, so I served in the Texas legislature for 8 years, 6 in the House and 2 in the Senate, and I know most of these people. So let's be beyond honest and let's be candid and frank. There's some of them that fancy themselves to be the next governor of Texas. And they know they're not going to be strong enough in 22, so they're really aiming for 26. And they went with a 12-pack of Miller Lite, and they came back with 8 cases of Corona. You know?
That's a great line. I like that. Wow.
And I think the airline they flew on was the Delta variant airline.
I got that. I loved it. Well, I mean, it blew up in their face like an exploding cigar, if I've ever seen anything. And now they're the laughingstock of the country.
Well, just like you said about being ridiculed, you want to be serious in politics.
Yeah.
And they're calling it Jim Crow 2.0, which is very insulting.
Yes.
I think it's more like hyperbole 2021 because we're talking about not making it harder to vote, but making it harder to cheat.
Yeah.
Nobody needs 24-hour voting. Who needs to go vote at 3:30 in the morning and drive through voting and adding a voter ID element to mail-in ballots is an extraordinarily good idea. And by the way, it applies, unlike Jim Crow, it applies to everyone equally, equal protection under the law.
Well, the other big issue that's going on in Texas is what's happening on the southern border. Obviously, as a member of Congress, you've been to the border. You went there with President Trump. You've seen firsthand what's going on. Kamala Harris is supposed to be in charge of the border. She only went to El Paso, which is probably the mildest place
the most secure sector,
where there is a border issue. What did you see when you were there with former President Donald Trump?
And I've been to the border several times because I'm from Texas. And what we saw is, to give people context, in May of 2020, when President Trump was in office, there were 23,000 illegal apprehensions in May, 2020.
Yeah.
This last month, May 2021, there were 180,000. That's 781% increase. And as you just mentioned, we've gone north of 1 million now. We just don't have the figures for June. And it's dastardly because the drug cartels, let's be very clear here, the Mexican drug cartels control our southern border, not our federal government, which is what we're all paying to have. They're supposed to be securing it. So the cartels love mass unlawful migration for a few reasons. Number one, it makes it easy for them to smuggle their illicit drugs. About half of our Border Patrol agents right now are babysitting, changing diapers, and administering COVID tests. And this is directly from them. because when we went down there, which is devastating. So it's fentanyl is coming into the country in droves. Cocaine and methamphetamine, that's all up. So that's the first way they make money. The second way is they actually charge funds. Nobody crosses that border anymore unless they pay to the cartels or they'll be murdered. And a lot of these Central American migrants from Honduras, El Salvador, and Guatemala, they don't even have the money for the transit. So what happens is the cartels say, don't worry, we'll take you for free. But when you get there, tell them that you have a friend in Baltimore, Seattle, Chicago, and then you're going to work for us. And how do you think some of these 20-something women are going to work it off? This is the largest sexual trafficking operation in the history of mankind, and Joe Biden is facilitating it, and the American taxpayer, he's compelling us to underwrite it.
Congressman, that is so sad because there's a human tragedy that a lot of people aren't thinking about. They see hordes of people coming across. They say, oh, that's terrible. They're coming to, get educated and get health care. They're being exploited. They're being used.
Yes.
And some of them are going to die as a result of what's going to be happening to them when they're trafficked like this. What's the way we fix this?
Well, and also we need to mention, too, Governor, 30% of the women that migrate from southern Mexico and Central America are raped or sexually assaulted along the journey. They're being used as political pawns in an open border and a moral border for those that live south of it and those that live north of it. It's devastating, and we need to change it. We need to change it with awareness, better policies. President Trump's policies were working. You know this.
Yeah.
You were a chief executive of a state. If you incentivize something, you're going to get more of it.
Yes, you are.
Joe Biden has incentivized it. We need to complete the border wall. We were with President Trump, and he's awesome, right?
Yeah.
And I love it when he goes off script.
Yeah.
Because his eyes change. And I never noticed that, but you know that?
Yeah.
And he's like this. I want to tell you something about Governor Huckabee. It's amazing. It's huge, okay? We have this wall. There's a bunch of holes. Joe Biden, why are there holes in the wall?
You know what? If Congress doesn't work out, you've got a great career doing Donald Trump impersonation. That's great. Sounded just like it.
Now, if the president is watching, President Trump, that was done out of love.
Yeah, you'll hear from him.
No, he was right. The funny thing was, too, he's like, they don't even paint it. It's not even painting. It's getting rusty. Look at it. Because you really do have to paint it, though, too. So the money was there, and we paid for the wall, and he wouldn't complete it. So we need to complete the wall. We need to deport folks that come here illegally, especially those criminals. I mean, I'm talking about the bad hombres, the felons that are exploiting who? Their own people. Yeah. We need to get them. And the Wait in Mexico policy worked. Because if you come from El Salvador and I make a call back home and say, it's miserable, I got to wait in Mexico, I can't get in, this is terrible, well, the next guy's not going to come.
Yeah, absolutely. Congressman, I want to say how grateful we are, not just for your being here, but for you being in Congress and being a great representative of the people of Texas and the rest of us as America. Please come back.
I would love to come back.
And we'll let you do a whole comedy set on impressions of Donald Trump. Congressman Pat Fallon, thanks for your time tonight. And we are so grateful that you're doing your job, unlike some of the people in the state legislature of Texas. And also for our audience, I know you're going to want to keep up with what the congressman is doing, so here's how you can do it. Go to social media at Rep. Pat Fallon.